Hello and welcome to the handover video for your brand new AutoSleeper Nuevo. We'll start on the outside of the vehicle and work our way around, and when we get back to here we'll move into the inside. So we'll start with the vents for the fridge. That one is for the back of the microwave, this is for the back of the fridge. There are winter covers which are stored in the wet locker which go on in sub-zero temperatures just to stop the fridge from overworking. Under the first of these flaps we'll find the external gas barbecue point on there, and there is your isolator valve for that. Beside that is an external 230 volt socket, so if you have your awning out and you're sitting underneath it in the evening, you can use various electrical appliances. Immediately beside that is access to the locker that is underneath the bed or the couch, depending on what you have set up inside the van at any given time. Here it's advisable you keep dry things, so there's spare bulbs, there's the electric hookup lead, there's levelling ramps, there's a carpet for going down underneath the awning when the awning goes out, and also stored in there are the thermal screens for the cab. The reason I say keep dry things in there is because that's inside your vehicle and you don't want to bring moisture into the interior of the van. Down below you have your wet locker. This wet locker is completely isolated from the rest of the vehicle. There's the winder handle for bringing down the corner steadies at the rear of the vehicle. That is the first of the electric hookup cables. The one in there is an extension piece, and this is the hose for filling water into the freshwater tank. All things that will be outside the vehicle and getting wet, and you don't want them inside your van. You want to keep them in your locker. The flap to give access to the filler cap for putting diesel into the engine is not controlled by the central locking, so you can access it at any time. The key, Peugeot key, is what's used on this. Unlock. There's a little flap there where you can hang your filler cap while you put diesel in. No AdBlue in this particular model, that came on later versions. Just inside the passenger door, first off, bonnet release catch down there. Vehicle battery is stored underneath the panel here, and it's not the easiest thing to get to, so if you ever have to jump start the vehicle, there are remote pillars inside the bonnet which I'll show you in just a moment. Underneath the passenger seat you'll find the vehicle toolbox. The secondary catch to release the bonnet is just under the centre of the bonnet there. Underneath the bonnet, access to your screen wash, filler cap there, coolant, steering and brake fluid. With a vehicle of this age you really shouldn't have to worry about those between services. Oil filler cap is here, dipstick down just out of sight there. Now, we spoke earlier on about the remote posts for the battery, and you'll see just to the right inside the bonnet there is a post where you would attach positive lead of a jump start, and for the negative there is a bolt here which gives you a good ground, and that's where you would attach jump leads if you ever required to use them. Continuing around the exterior of the vehicle, the next thing we come to just behind the exhaust pipe is a blue tap. This tap is for draining the fresh water tank. For a full drain of the fresh water tank you require to open this, then open the frost protection valve on the boiler, which we'll show you later in the film, and also open the taps in the bathroom and in the kitchen. Just below the window to the lounge area on the off side of the vehicle you'll find the LPG fill point. Just push and turn, it's a bayonet catch. Any filling station that has LPG will allow you to pull in, attach, follow the instructions on the various pump dispensers that they have in garages. Each one's slightly different, but in most of them there'll be a lever that you pull down to lock everything in place. Just to the left of that is the input for the water tank. Now, this particular model does not have just a hole that you would put a hose in to fill up. There's a special adapter that clocks onto the end, and you have two different hoses. One which will go to a standpipe or to a kitchen sink, and will fill directly from there. The other one goes to an external pump, which you can drop into a aqua roll or into a tub of water to fill water that way. If you're on a fully serviced site where you get access to RF and digital satellite inputs, or if you have an external tripod with a satellite dome on, you can plug in there. That will take your RF and your satellite signal into the vehicle. Slightly above that, you'll find the vent for the boiler. Never be tempted to hang a cagoule jacket or anything like over there. You will see on a cold day sometimes a plume of condensation coming from it when the boiler's working, just as you would do with the combi boiler at home. If you block that, or if there is a blockage on that, there's a sensor, safety sensor inside, will sense it and cut the boiler out. This is just a vent to let cool air from the boiler mechanism escape from the inside of the vehicle. Now, below there is the mains input. Now, there is a procedure for plugging a vehicle into mains when you arrive on a campsite. You always start by plugging into the vehicle first. You then carry a dead end over to the power point, plug in and switch on there. If you plug in on the power point first and then come back to here, you're walking around the site with that in your hand. And that's live. And if it's a wet day, you're standing in wet grass, you've got water on your fingers, whatever, it could be a recipe for disaster. So always plug in to the van first and then take the dead lead over to the power point. Continuing towards the rear of the vehicle, we'll come across the toilet area. This is for filling, in effect, the cistern of your toilet. There's a separate tank for flushing the toilet in this vehicle, and this is the cassette for emptying your chemical waste. So, to fill the cistern, first identify the correct key, and it's simply a hose or a watering can or bottled water, whatever, just fill in there. There is no gauge or anything, you just fill it until the water starts to flow back. This is the hatch into the cassette area below the toilet. I'll show you a valve that's in the toilet in just a moment. The valve must be closed in the toilet before you remove the cassette. There's a yellow lever in this model below which you lift up and draw the cassette out. Now the cassette comes away really freely. If you feel any resistance, it's because the blade hasn't been closed in the toilet. Stop, go in, close the blade and come back out here. Now, how do you empty your cassette? You remove it, carry it to the waste disposal point. There's a handle on this side which you grab with either your left or your right hand, depending if you're left or right-handed. Turn the nozzle so. Remove what's euphemistically referred to as the crap cap and tilt. Press this button will release the air pressure and allow the contents to flow out. After you've emptied it, rinse it out a couple of times. Put your chemicals inside here. Inside here there is a measuring cap as well, so that measure out your chemicals. Chemicals in, add about 1.5 litres to 2 litres of water to activate the chemicals. Give it a wee shake. So once you've emptied, put fresh chemicals and water in, return the cassette to its home, close the door and we're ready to go. So the switch is just as you come in through the habitation door. The round button here controls the step. Just above that there's 2 rocker switches which control side lights around the interior of the vehicle, and the third and final rocker switch is right up at the top, and it's the fresh water tank heater isolation switch. That's it on. We've got water in the tank. That will protect the tank from freezing now. If you've no water in the tank, make sure that's off. The second tank heater switch is underneath the bench next to the boiler, and it's there. Again, only switch that on if there's any water in your grey wastewater tank. So your first control panel, it goes to sleep and switches absolutely everything off. Switch on the 12 volt power. You can see the condition of the batteries by toggling through with that button there, and then your water pump on and off. The auxiliary button on this panel controls the awning light on the exterior of the vehicle. So let's toggle through what this panel can do. That's the model number of your Sergeant Control Unit. Event. You can program events for timers to come on and off. I wouldn't bother, it's a much easier programmer on the Truma control. Set event timer. Again, you can use this if you wish, it's entirely up to you, but the other system is simpler. Alarm on and off if you want to use it as an alarm. Setting the clock. Water tank fill. When you're filling the water tank, you have to switch this to on. That will send power to the unit that you plug into the side of the van to fill. Pump select, you get a choice of internal water pump, external water pump. If you're using the external water pump, you can have both on at the same time. Battery current, we're currently getting 10 volts in the battery. External temperature, everything else from here, wastewater tank is 0, freshwater tank 50% full. It's just all information that you get from this panel here on in. Main supply is on because we're plugged into mains, and then we're back to the battery conditions and then back to main, and that's your primary control panel. Let's go to the secondary control panel. So your secondary control panel is your Truma. Press once to switch on. Everything that appears above this black line tells you what you have selected and what you've asked it to do. Everything below the black line are the options that you can enter and ask it to do things. We'll start with the first one, the flashing symbol of the vehicle with the thermometer in it. Press the button to enter, and this is the central heating, and you just dial in the temperature in Celsius that you would like to achieve. Maximum of 30, press once to enter and select. Now you see things appearing above the line. This indicates, that little flame there indicates that we have switched on the central heating here. You'll see it's flashing. It will continue to flash until the temperature has been reached. Once it reaches 30 degrees, it will stop flashing. Turning the dial, we move on to little wiggly lines indicating water with a thermometer in it. That's the hot water system. Press enter. It's off at the moment. We switch it on. You can have 40, you can have 60, and you can have boost. So we'll set it at 60. If you select boost, it doesn't get any hotter than 60. It will just get there quicker at the expense of the central heating. All the energy goes to heating the hot water. So we're now heating the hot water to 60. We're heating the vehicle to 30. And you might be able to hear in the background fans are starting to pick up as the hot air system blows warm air around the vehicle. Let's go along to the fan, and you can enter in the fan. You can have eco, you can have high, and you can have boost. Again, it's just fan speeds. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to switch the hot water off, and I'm going to switch the heating down. I want to keep the heating on for the moment because I need the heating on to demonstrate, but I just want to kill the fans because they'll be blowing in the background. They'll continue to blow for a little while after you have switched off the heating as it goes through its cool down process. So this symbol here, the gas bottle and the two lightning symbols, indicate your fuel choice. You have a choice. You can run on gas, LPG gas, on underslung gas, and you get a little bottle above the line indicating that's what you've selected. You can choose electric 1 and you'll get a single electric symbol. If you're plugged into a campsite, that will draw about 900 watts worth of energy. Electric 2 will draw 1800 watts. On most campsites that will be absolutely fine. On some older campsites, if you're drawing too much energy, you might trip out their power point. So it depends on the campsite you're on, not on your vehicle. You can use combinations, so you can have we go mix 1, which is gas and 900 watts. You can have mix 2, which is gas and 1800 watts. If you're on a campsite and you're plugged in, just use electric. It takes a little bit longer to heat up, but you've paid for the electricity. It's not metered. You may as well use that rather than your gas. And if you have not selected either central heating or hot water, if you have them both off, then nothing appears above the lines. During the summer, when nothing's switched on, the fan can be used as a vent. It's not air conditioning, it will just circulate air around the habitation area. So let's go back in, switch the vent off, enter. This symbol down here is a timer, event timer, so you can put in a start time, you can put in an end time, and you can have your central heating coming on first thing in the morning, or time to come on when you return from a walk in the hills so the van is nice and warm and the water's hot for a shower. This will allow you to set your clock, and this is the final settings, which allows you to set the language, to set temperature. If you go into the various settings into reset, you can change it from Celsius to Fahrenheit, the display. You can brighten or you can darken down the LCD screen. It's entirely up to you how you have it set up. And the little symbol above indicates that we are plugged into mains. And that is your secondary Truma control for hot water and central heating. Now, before you switch on your boiler, you have to charge the system. If you have no water in the boiler and you try to heat up that water, you will burn out the element. So after you've filled your vehicle with water, turn the tap to cold and run it, and there's no air. That means the cold water side of the system has been charged and up to pressure. Turn to hot and run it until no air escapes. Now, to begin with, that will just splutter and throw out lots of air as water is drawn from the cold water tank into the boiler. Once the boiler is fully charged, you'll get continuity of flow, as you can see there. Then you can switch on your boiler. Now, normally at this point in your handover, I'd ask you to feel the water and see that it's hot. Hopefully, it's a bit of a cold day and you'll start to see steam. There, the steam coming out. So that's proof that the hot water system is working and you're getting hot water. In cold weather, there's a frost protection valve here. When the temperature drops below 3 degrees Celsius, this valve will trigger and drain your system to protect the system. If you want to keep using the vehicle during the winter months and have water in the system, you have to keep the heating on and you have to keep the vehicle warm. Usually set your temperatures at about 8 degrees Celsius. That will stop the system tripping out and stop you getting frozen pipes. If it does trip out and you want to refill it, you have to get the ambient temperature around this valve up to 8 degrees Celsius, otherwise the valve won't reset. It's also the valve is also the way of draining the water from the boiler when the time comes to do a full winter drain down. So to do that, you open the valve by turning it through 90 degrees, and that button below should pop open. So here we go. It's now draining the boiler. To stop that, turn that through back to the 90-degree position and push in the valve. If this is in line with that water pipe, then the valve is closed and the system is closed, and then you can use the hot water. Now, to demonstrate that the cooker is working, 3 gas rings, 1 electric ring. The electric ring controlled here. When you switch that on, red light comes on there, adjustable up to 6, and you'll feel heat very quickly start to come through. Obviously only works when you're on an electric hookup. Gas, on the other hand, works all the time. The sparker's on 12 volts. Leave the button pushed in for just a little while the gas comes on, and then ring 2 and ring 3. Similarly, to operate the grill, push, turn and ignite. Hold for a few seconds to allow the thermocouple to warm up, and you'll see that the grill is operating. Making sure to remove anything flammable from the oven. The grill pan is transported inside the oven in this cover. Turn the dial, ignite, flame comes on, hold for a few seconds, and we have oven. So the vehicle comes with a 3-way Thetford fridge. Press and hold the wee square button and you see a wee blue light comes on to switch it on. In automatic mode, it will always search for the most appropriate power source. If you shift it to manual by pressing that button there, we're now running on 240 volts, one more takes us to battery. We're now getting an error message because the ignition is not on. This will only operate when the engine is running. And then there's gas. It's a self-igniter. It will come on and start to run. If there's a fault, if it doesn't light, you will flash and get an error message as we did when we were on 12 volts. To adjust temperature, it's this button here. It's not going to keep you awake at night. The screen goes to sleep. To wake the screen up, you just touch the button here again. So let's go back to automatic, press and hold to power down, and that's the operation of your Thetford fridge. The toilet bowl swivels to give you the appropriate leg room. If you look inside, you'll see the blade that we were talking about earlier on. It opens and closes from the handle there. When you're ready to flush, button on the top, jet of water, and as long as you keep your finger on the button, the toilet will continue to flush. All the windows in the vehicle operate in the same manner. You press in a spring button and turn the handle away to free it off, and you push out. It's a little click mechanism. You'll hear a click and the window will stay at that position. Do not grab the window and pull it to try and close. You have to push past and it will come back down. Lock in place when travelling. There is the opportunity to have the windows just on a wee crack to get cool air coming through of an evening. Do not travel with the windows in this position. The windows are acrylic. If the wind gets underneath them and catches them, it will just rip them right off. All windows come with privacy blind from the bottom and a fly screen from the top. The main Remus roof light above the lounge area works on a crank handle. Direction to turn is indicated inside the handle here. Turn in one direction, it opens, and the other direction, it closes. Always make sure you go all the way to the closed position. Do not force it past that position. You strip the gears back to here and then lock closed. Kitchen roof light, slightly different. It has a locked position. So turn it to the left to open and just push it up. Then bring it back down and lock again. You can go the other way as well to open it. There's also a midway setting point, which is where we would advise you have it set if you're cooking, if it's raining. If it's not raining, open it the whole way, and that will get rid of all the cooking smells, odours and fumes. If it's raining, you can have it open just at the half setting. But in travelling conditions, it must be firmly closed. Very straightforward cab operation. 3 stalks on the steering wheel. One on the right is for windscreen wipers. The upper one on the left is lights and indicators. The lower one is cruise control. Cruise control, simple on and off, and then it has an up and down function where you can increase the cruise control speed in increments of 1 mile per hour, or hold and it will start to slowly climb up. Levels will be indicated on your dashboard as you drive along. As always, cruise control cancelled by touching any of the pedals on the pedal box below. Manual vehicle, to select reverse in the Peugeot Boxer, pull the collar up over to the far left and up. Radio, FM, AM, media, if you plug in any media to the unit, is selected via there. There is Bluetooth connection to the radio, but it's for phone only, so you won't get Apple CarPlay or anything like that. There is no built-in reversing camera into the head unit. The reversing camera screen is up here where the reversing mirror would be. Left behind by the previous owner is a dash cam and a Garmin sat nav, neither of which are original AutoSleeper features. Outer ring on this side, direction of airflow. Outer ring on this side, air temperature. Fan speed on there, fresh air coming in or recycled air, and an AC button. AC only works when you have cold air selected and the fan switched on. When you're running AC, it's best to use recycled air. That way you're not having to chill down warm air coming in from outside of the vehicle all the time. Well, that concludes your handover video and tour of your new to you Nuevo EK. EK, of course, standing for End Kitchen. On behalf of everyone at Highland Camper Fans, I'd like to thank you very much for your business, and we wish you all the best. We know that this vehicle will bring you lots of smiles and lots of miles. If you have any issues or any questions, please feel free to pick up the phone and give myself or any of my colleagues in the sales department a quick call. Happy travels.